It is just a few hours to the country's supplementary elections, obviously, with I's dotted and T's crossed by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. Many anxiously wait for the conduct of the exercise. With materials and personnel deployed, Nigerians have expressed hope for a better outing. The theater of events are 2,616 polling units across 24 states of the country, and the seats yet to be occupied include 31 seats in the House of Representatives, 5 in the Senate, and 2 governors, 57 constituencies across 17 states for houses of assembly. These are constituencies where elections were previously suspended due to some reasons, including violence, and situations where the votes margin between the winner and the first runner-up is less than the cancelled votes. So how prepared is INEC in conducting a free and fair election, and what measures have been put in place to ensure a transparent result? These answers will be given by guests already seated in the studio. My name is Eukaria Clinton. Welcome to Nigeria Today. Joining me to discuss today's supplementary election is Jide Ojo, a public affairs analyst. Thank you for joining me.
My pleasure, Clinton.
And also joining us via Zoom is Barrister Festus Okoye, INEC National Commissioner for Information. Good to have you with us, sir.
Thank you so much.
So I'll start with you. How prepared is INEC for these supplementary elections?
Well, we are ready for the election. In all the states of the Federation where we have supplementary election, the sensitive materials and the beavers have been deployed to the various states, and they have left the state offices to the various local government areas. Not only that, we have 2 supplementary governorship elections, one in Kebbi and one in Adamawa State. For the supplementary governorship election in Kebbi, the commission deployed 3 national commissioners to superintend the election and give support to the resident electoral commissioner. For the one in Adamawa State, the commission deployed 2 national commissioners to also oversee the election. And then we deployed 1 national commissioner to Sokoto State and 1 national commissioner to Rivers State. Not only that, the bulk of those who are going to conduct this election will be drawn from the staff of the commission, because in some of the places where these elections will be conducted, we have just very few polling units and very few constituencies. So we are going to draw the bulk of the ad hoc staff from the permanent staff of the commission. In places where we have big elections, like in places like Adamawa State, in Kebbi and in Sokoto, we have also deployed staff from the contiguous states where the supplementary election is not taking place. So in terms of preparation, and also in terms of making sure that the votes of the people count, the commission has prepared well. And in terms of security, the security agencies have also assured us that they have the capacity, and they have deployed well, and they have also drawn some of their staff personnel from the contiguous states to beef up the personnel in the states where we are having this supplementary election. So we are good to go in relation to the election tomorrow.
Thank you very much. Jide, you heard Barrister Okoye there and the preparation that INEC has made in view of the supplementary elections. Now, what are your thoughts on these supplementary elections? You know, I say like he mentioned, Kebbi, Adamawa, Sokoto, Rivers, and the rest of them. How do you see this in terms of the burden, the financial burden on the country? Because going back to what you have done before definitely means extra cost.
First and foremost, Eukaria, we need to understand that the reason why there are supplementary elections is because elections have started to be very competitive. Issues around supplementary elections started way back in 2006, and people do not just understand that. And I will say for free, in 2019, in fact, there are 5 inconclusive governorship elections in 2019. You understand? So from 2019, where we have 5 supplementary governorship elections, to 2 in 2023, it shows that our electoral process is improving. Because why many people may not understand why elections are declared inconclusive, why supplementary election. Many hold the opinion there is a sheer waste of resources, that if there is violence, you don't need to go back. In as far as that violence was not caused by INEC. But no, INEC did not want those who perpetrated that violence to profit from their act of, misdemeanor. That's why they say, look, because the antics of politicians is that they go foment trouble in the stronghold of their opponent, believing that by did you hear of unknown gunmen in Southeast again? The burning down of INEC offices ahead of election, which INEC office has been burnt since March 18 or since February 25th. Are they on holiday? But they deliberately orchestrated all of that so that they scare voters away, so that people would not come out to vote. Now elections have held. Now the antics of politicians is that they cause violence in stronghold of opponents, believing that when such violence happens, they will protect their own territory, their own constituency, and gain from that. But what INEC has done since those episodes in Ekiti State way back in 2006, during the tenure of Mrs. Ayoka Adebayo as resident electoral commissioner, is that you cannot be allowed to profit from your misdemeanor. So if the margin of lead is such that the person who is leading and the first runner up, the areas where there are cancellations or violence arising from either overvoting or cancellations, those areas, if the margin of lead of the person is such that those cancellations can neutralize that lead, INEC will not declare a winner. And the law is very clear on that. Even Supreme Court has decided that INEC is on the right footing by declaring election inconclusive and going back to conduct supplementary election. Otherwise, it will not have been featuring in our elections since 2007. However, what I think, my own take, is that there still needs to tinker with our electoral law a bit. And what is that? That where the margin of lead is such that the number of PVCs collected, because right now INEC is still relying on the number of registered voters, and we know registered voters is imaginary, is here, is in the here. What INEC by its own regulation and guidelines says, if you carry out despite being a registered voter, you don't go to collect your PVC, you are already disenfranchised. So if you do not, so now if, for instance, in places where there will be supplementary election tomorrow, maybe let me give an instance, empirical instance. The Governor Fintiri is leading by 31,000 votes plus in Adamawa. If the number of PVCs collected in Fufure local government and other units where election will be held tomorrow, if the total number of PVCs collected is less than 30,000, you don't have to go and do supplementary, because there is no magic that will make that result to change. Given the fact that when election is declared inconclusive, nobody will still be allowed to go back to collect their PVCs. So you don't open the window to say, oh, since you didn't collect your PVC ahead of election, now that there is going to be supplementary election, then you can go back and collect PVCs.
Mr. Jide, I'll have to stop you here. And look, Pastor Koye, of course, there were issues that led to these supplementary elections. Now, are there strategies on ground to forestall the glitches and the hitches that necessitated the suspension and the inconclusiveness recorded in some areas?
We understand some of the issues that led to some of the elections being indicated for supplementary. Now, there were cases of overvoting in some of the polling units. There were cases of violence. There were also some instances where the commission was unable to deploy on account of insecurity and other challenges. We also had cases of beavers malfunction in very few areas. And by the time the beavers was replaced, some of the communities felt that they were not going to get a good deal and prevented the election from continuing in those areas. So we understand the sensitivities around these issues. But in terms of the issues involved, for instance, in Adamawa State, for instance, the margin of lead between the first candidate and the second candidate is around 31,000 votes. But in terms of the total number of registered voters, we have 42,785 registered voters. But in terms of the number of PVCs collected, we have 36,935. So what the commission does is that we use the number of PVCs collected to determine the margin of lead and whether supplementary election has been indicated. Now we are deploying bulk of our own staff to go and conduct this election. So some of them are going to act as presiding officers, some of them are going to act as supervisors, and some of them are even going to collate the RA results. So we want to professionalize the conduct of this supplementary election because we are not going to have supplementary after a supplementary election. There will be a conclusion to the election that we are going to conduct in all these places where supplementary elections have been indicated. And in terms of overvoting, in terms of disruption, in terms of violence, we have had strategic meetings with the various security agencies under the auspices of the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security, especially at the state level. And they have indicated their willingness and intention to make sure that nobody is allowed to unleash violence on the voters or to disrupt the electoral process. So in terms of some of the issues that led to the supplementary being indicated, we are on top of those situations.
Mr. Gide, he just told us that some of the issues that led to the inconclusiveness and of course that led to this, where we are right now, have been addressed. I think that's a good news. So talking about the INEC staff themselves, being on ground, to operate these the beavers and the rest of them. What's your take on this?
Yeah, it's a welcome development given the fact that INEC will reduce a lot of cost by having its own permanent staff conducting this election. This is a high-stake supplementary elections because, like I said, the reason why there are supplementary elections is because the result is very close. If there is a wide margin of lead, the election will have been concluded on the first ballot. So situations where, look at the Adamawa scenario now, that somebody is leading by 31,000, PVCs collected 36,000, the total number of registered voters 42,000. So anything can happen, and that will make the two leading candidates to dig deep, which is why I will implore the security agencies to be on high alert, because we don't want to hear of death, abductions, violence again. As my Oga Festus Okoye said, Esquire, there will not be another supplementary election after this one. So the powers that be, the dramatic personnel must play by the rules. We know it's high stake. Look at the Doguwa Tudunwada Federal Constituency in Kano that INEC later declared inconclusive because the returning officer said it was put under duress. INEC had to declare that election inconclusive. There are going to be supplementary election in 13 polling units, just 13 polling units. And you can just imagine how the NNPP and the APC candidates in those 13 polling units will want to do everything in the rule books to take advantage, given the fact that the contest is very keen. So it's keen contestation that is leading to supplementary. But I'm saying INEC deploying its own permanent staff is a welcome development. But would they have effective security cover? Because I don't trust Nigerian politicians. Their desperate nation is where we are, what we in this situation. If you look at all the variables that led to supplementary to inconclusive election, violence over voting, glitches with beavers, communities resisting that elections should go on because of certain reasons. You find that majority of these reasons are with the political class who has this not in my backyard attitude. So the security agencies have no excuse to allow for any security lapse. Tomorrow they must make sure that as INEC has deployed professional staff to go and conduct those supplementary polls, they must be given adequate security cover so that we will not be hearing later tomorrow that some of them were abducted or that somebody was killed. Because in the last election, there was INEC lost a ad hoc staff in Rivers State who was shot by political thugs, and of course we heard of abductions of 19 INEC ad hoc staff in Imo State, even though police were able to rescue them, but they couldn't rescue the beavers and the election material. So all of these practices and malpractices, political class will still want to test their battle, their wit tomorrow, and they need to be frustrated by the security agencies.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Jide. Barrister Okoye, of course, violence was one of the reasons, and there are other reasons why this supplementary election is holding right now. Now, has there been any culprit? Has anyone been brought to book in relation to these issues like the violence and the rest of them?
No, I didn't quite get your question.
I said, has there been any culprit? Has anyone been brought to book in relation to the violence and, of course, the death that was recorded and all of that? Has anyone been brought to book?
Well, you know that we are still in the middle of elections. We just concluded the presidential and National Assembly elections, and then thereafter, we entered the governorship and state assembly elections, and then thereafter also, we are now trying to conduct the supplementary elections. Yes, the police made arrests in terms of some of the places where issues have arisen. Investigations are still ongoing. We are liaising with the police in terms of the handing over of the case file and the suspects to the commission for purposes of prosecution. And I'm confident that the moment we get through with this supplementary election, the course will be clear for us to look at those issues around the issue of arrest, investigation, and prosecution more critically. But we believe that we must find a way and means of breaking the cycle of impunity that has led to some of the political elite unleashing violence at the level of the polling units and trying to distort the sovereign right of the voters to free choice. But as the chairman of the commission has consistently pointed out, that the time has come for the country to have an electoral offences commission and tribunal that will be charged with the exclusive responsibility of making arrests, of conducting investigation, and also prosecuting electoral offenders. So the commission has consistently said that we want the burden of prosecuting electoral offenders to be removed from the commission, because some of the electoral offenders may even be staff of the commission, and we cannot be expected to be prosecuting ourselves. So we want an electoral offences commission and tribunal to be created, and this tribunal may even have the responsibility, or this commission may even have the responsibility of even having a mobile electoral court on election day to deal with minor infractions that may occur at the level of the polling units on election day. Yes, we are on top of the situation. We are following some of the cases where electoral infractions have occurred and where criminal offenses have been committed. And the moment we are through with the supplementary elections, we will sit down and then liaise with the various security agencies in terms of arranging for the prosecution of some of the electoral offenders.
Thank you, Pastor Koye. Jide, the situation where politicians see, the positions as their birthright, hence deploying a do-or-die strategy to ensure they grab power. By all means, do you see our democracy outgrowing this in the future?
It's already outgrowing it. given that the statistics, in spite of the fact that it's not heartwarming to be saying, oh, only few people died. Every death should sober us. You understand? But when you look at how many deaths had been recorded in previous elections, they have been in hundreds. But this one, to the best of my knowledge, the last I checked, is about 28 people. So from 100 to 28, it means that at least the level of fatality is coming down substantially. But every life still matters. Like I said, every life still matters. But you know, this electoral violence is not peculiar to Nigeria. It's a global phenomenon. Even in US, there are violence. And mark you, violence manifests in multiple ways. There is what is called psychological violence, there is physical violence, and there is physiological violence, structural violence rather. There is structural violence, there is psychological violence, and there is physical violence. When people talk about violence, they are talking more in terms of physical. Oh, how many people died, how many people were injured, and all of that. But what about the structural violence? When you deliberately use institutions of the state to threaten or to scare or to marginalize certain participants in the process, you know, that's structural violence. And then the psychological violence, when you use rhetorics, you know, like hate speeches, you know, a voter intimidation method. Those are psychological violence. Imagine somebody saying that you cannot come and vote here if you do not belong to a particular tribe or ethnic group. That is psychological violence. Even though he may not carry out that threat, it's already giving you jitters that what if I die him and I come arm's way. You understand? So people need to understand that violence can be psychological, structural, and can be physical. But my point is that it's reducing. As elections get routinized, we are seeing less and less of documentation of incidents of violence. But we cannot jubilate in the fact that, in 2019, 4 years ago, we lost 100 lives, or we lost 80 lives. So this time around, we lost 28. It's still like a fraction. Every life. The young guy, the young adult staff of INEC that was shot dead in Rivers, who knows if he could have been the next, been the president of Nigeria in future, or another governor in future, or a senator. Now the life has been cut short. So we just need to break that cycle of impunity. And I agree 100% with Barrister Festus Okoye, or Festus Okoye Esquire, because we are not supposed to say barrister. You know, I agree with him 100% about the need for Electoral Offences Commission and Electoral Offences Tribunal. Ironically, Eukarya, Senate of the Federal Republic has passed this bill 2 years ago. The House refused to concur. The House of Reps have been foot dragging. And you ask, but the mischief in this is that they know that they are the bulk of perpetrators, because these are the people who contest elections. So when Senate, because I recall that Senate even passed the Electoral Offences Commission bill before the Electoral Act 2022 bill. It was passed 2 years ago. But House, you know, because we run bicameral legislature, the House of Reps need to concur to that. And Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila spoke to it after the election, that they will still pass it. But, you know, time is running fast.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jide. Well, that's how far we can go on the episode of Nigeria Today. And many thanks to our guest, Jide Ojo, public affairs analyst. And thank you very much for coming, sir.
My pleasure. Always a pleasure.
And via Zoom is Festus Okoye, INEC National Commissioner for Information. Thank you very much for your contributions.
Thank you so much.
And to our viewer, thank you for keeping the date. And don't forget, Nigeria Today weekdays at 7:30 p.m. on NTA News 24. You can watch this and other episodes on www.youtube.com/NTA News 24. Thank you for watching. I'm Eukarya Clinton. Goodbye.